All right, welcome back to the 1216 podcast. This is 12 with you guys. Finally got chapter 1100 titled Thank You, Bonney, closing off the end of Kuma's backstory, which has been probably one of the saddest backstories in all of One Piece history, inside my opinion. It's full with a lot of joyous moments, sacrifice, slavery, hardships, of course, decision making that's just over the top challenging, and much more to go. But we'll go through some of those as we, talk more about the chapter and what went through with it. We start off by opening up the chapter, and we see that Sanji is cooking a meal for for Usopp, and Usopp's just thinking about all of his old pirate buddies. We have pepper, we have carrot, we have onion, and those are all the things that Sanji is cooking with as well, which is kind of funny because all of these are just popping up, and we of course get to see that Sanji, that Usopp has been, having that nostalgia moment for him, and I love seeing that. Takes him back to being home. We start this chapter off at the future location of Egghead Island. And at the future location of Egghead Island, we have Dr. Vegapunk himself, Barcelona, aka Kizaru, and of course Kuma, and they're on a transponder snail as well, with listeners from the Marine base listening into the conversation to make sure that things are actually going the way they're supposed to be going when it comes to these negotiations. From where we left off with last chapter, we all know that, of course, Kuma is trying his best right now to get Bonney cured. Bonney, of course, has the sapphire scales, and he wants to find a way to, any way possible, to help cure that. So they come up with a few things, being that Bartholomew Kuma right now is a wanted pirate of 296 million berries on his head. It's not just going to be easy to work with Vegapunk, especially since it's cameras all around the place, and Bartholomew Kuma kind of winks at it a little bit because not Kuma, and Kizaru kind of winks at it a little bit at the beginning of the chapter, just saying like you should probably check every nook and cranny, especially because you're on a military base, government property type stuff. It's going to be, we're going to overhear things and see things, of course. You're always being watched. This is how they found out that Kuma was there in the first place. So, as we get down to it, there are a few things that Kuma has to agree to make these terms and conditions set in stone for him to actually go through and get Bonney cured the way that he wants to. The first condition has to be met of him actually becoming a member of the seven warlords of the sea. We all know that that's a tough task of itself to do. Being a pirate that's part of the Revolutionary Army, now you being asked to be a part of the seven warlords system, which is going to make you a direct member of the world government, which you oppose because you're a Revolutionary Army member. So with that being said, it's already a conflict that he has to go through. It's just one thing out of the ones he has to do because there's an opening because of what Ace did. And Ace, how we all know he declined the position, and then he also not only declined the position but joined the Whitebeard Pirates. So it's still an opening right there for the Seven Warlords of the Sea position. The second condition that had to be met is that he has to become a weapon for the Navy, meaning that they have to modify his actual body for him to become a weapon and go out there and serve justice for the Navy, not only as a member of the Seven Warlords of the Sea, but also as now your modified body giving up your free will. You must give up your free will. So that kind of plays into fact by a long shot. I know that's something that Kuma doesn't want to do because he's going to most likely forget about Bonney. And that's something that Vegapunk just doesn't want to do because at the same time, that's like killing a man. You have to become a weapon. You have to give up your free will, and you have to be a member of the Seven Warlords of the Sea. Like Jay Garcia, you have some ridiculous tasks to be met, but giving up your sense of identity has to be one of those where it's like you're basically killing this man and turning him into nothing but a zombie. not zombie, but a robot. Of course, Vegapunk can't really say much about it because of the fact is that you work for the world government, and this is a five elder telling you what to do at this point now. So you can get mad all you want, Vegapunk, but this is something that you will have to do if you want to continue to do your job, and that's very understandable. At the same time, this is a man we're talking about, Kuma, but because we are talking about Kuma, he makes this a little bit easier for himself. The fact that he won't be able to see his daughter turn 10, um, due to the fact that he will be a robot and will lose his sense of identity, just goes to show you that he would go through anything to do it, and he agrees to the terms and conditions. He said as long as Bonney will be cured, he's going to be happy. And that's very understandable right there. Kuma's been a great father figure for Bonney. He gets to watch her play around. She gets to live a long life cured, that way she doesn't perish by 10 years old. As we go through with some more, we get asked how long would things take? And of course, the modifications to turn Kuma's body is going to take him about 2 years, while Bonney, to cure her, is going to take 6 months plus an additional year, so a year and a half for her to be completely cleared of the sapphire scales and able to go into the sunlight. The cure would take place over the 6 month course, but then the sunlight, she will have to wait another year, which makes it a year and a half for her to go out there and not be affected by it. And that just goes to show that Kuma is extremely happy because now all the things that Bonney said she wanted to dream of doing once she turns 10 would be perfect for her. Because I remember at first he asked her, "What are you gonna do when you're 20?" But 20 was out the question when the doctor came up there and told her she wouldn't even make it past 10. Um, this is now being a realistic dream that's coming true for her, and it wasn't just Kuma talking out the side of his ass. It was him actually going out there night in and day out, trusting what Dragon has to do for him and what Dragon wants from him, and trusting the people that Dragon puts in front of him, i.e. Vegapunk, to go ahead and cure Bonney. So very much proud of that. Just kind of fucked up the fact that Jay Garcia does want him to have no type of communication with Bonney at all. They want to keep Bonney under surveillance for the world government's sake. That way that once she's cured, he doesn't just disappear and go off somewhere. They want to make sure that she is kept safe and under watch 24/7. At the same time, Kuma is giving his word for this and that he will not harm, he will not go after her, he will not hunt her down. Even when she's all cured, he's going to forget anyway. He doesn't want this to be a drug out process. We all know that as of now, Bonney came to Egghead Island looking for looking for Vegapunk because of what happened, but she was never given the exact truth. Kuma told them to never tell Bonney the truth. Um, just say that he's coming down with an illness as well, and he has to stay there, and that she's not being held hostage, but she's just has to do something else with arrangements. So the fact that she has to be held by the world government is something's going to be heartbreaking and of course controversial for her and for Kuma especially. But Kuma comes up with a deal and says, "I will agree to all terms that you guys have laid out for me, as long as you can agree on one thing. And that one thing is that she can be raised in the Sorbet Kingdom, and she can be watched from there at the church that he raised her in." And Jay Garcia, being a very understandable man, says, "Yeah, that's perfectly fine. We'll take care of that." And that ends up happening. So, of course, we have little Bonney running around. She's playing with Sentomaru, and she runs right up to Kuma, and they have a little conversation about what's just happening. She says she's with this weirdo Sentomaru, which is kind of funny because Sentomaru was playing around with Bonney for a long time when Bonney arrived. But of course, that has to come to an end now because now we have to go into the next thing. It has to be a place where there's no windows, which is great because Egghead Island has no windows. A lot of rooms without windows, kind of weird, but they're all testing rooms. And because these testing rooms are there, That's a great thing for these next 6 months to be laid out to make sure that Bonney is kept in a contained environment and go from there. While we start the trials now and all the and everything going on, Vegapunk starts just thinking to himself, "Wow, I need more of me. I need somebody for me who can eat for me, somebody who can go use the bathroom for me, somebody who can just help out. He needs more people, which just gives him the start, of course, to have the Vega Force, which is pretty cool because at this point we see that Vegapunk was still just by himself a lot with other doctors, of course, but he needs more Vegapunks around, and this is around the time where he actually creates the Vega Force, which is pretty cool to see. But as we go through, Kuma's having his test done on him. He's getting his body modified slowly but surely, as well as Bonnie's getting her test and her sapphire scales are being treated, which is making sure that they're having a good life. Every day they wake up, they play a little bit, they sleep together. Well, Bonnie sleeps on top of Kuma's chest, but then they wake up, they play since tomorrow is there with them. They're having a great time over this next 6 months. They even have a huge shipment of pizza that comes in. They have a pizza party. They're dancing. Everything's going strong. And then we get a look at the dances that they're doing. And they're dancing very similar to the Sun God. It's funny to say that, the Buccaneer race could be what the Sun God, the original Nika was. The original owner, Joy Boy, he could have been a Buccaneer member. This is also why their race was wiped out for the most part. And Kuma being that last member, seeing him do the dance, he's drinking, he's having fun. It just makes you think even more like, was Nika original Joy Boy? Was he a Buccaneer member? And then as well as just looking at just the subliminal shots that's been thrown in our faces by Oda, um, by Odin and by Oda, and he's just telling us little by little, like, "Hey, wink, wink, like, wake up, like, Buccaneer race was the original race of the free people." Half a year later, we see that the results are good, and we see that Bonnie gets cured. There's no scales upon her body, but she has to go through rehabilitation now. And this is the part where things get very difficult, because now she has to go back to the Sorbet Kingdom and stand in church. Once she gets back there, she's greeted by all the elders that were there, all the people that's there. Granny Connie is there. The former member of the royal family, the queen herself, Queen Connie. She's there, and all the other ones, and to look out for Bonnie and raise her. Not raise her so much, but watch out for her. And Kuma looks at her again, looks at Bonnie, and just says, it's gonna be great. Do your thing, but it's gonna be amazing. And on top of that, we see that somebody walks in, and this person looks like Khalifa at first sight, and I really still think that it is her under a different name. This person comes in as Cypher Pro number 8 intelligence agent Alpha, and she's brought in by two other doctors. These doctors are going to look out for Bonnie, of course. Alpha, as you want to call her, still think this is Khalifa. Even with the glasses, this is just giving me Khalifa vibes, and I really think this is her. So I'm gonna keep saying this is Khalifa, but she wants to go by Alpha for the time being. It's Alpha. Is here to make sure that Bonnie Chan's recovery goes smooth. She's gonna be checking her temperature daily. She takes her meds, and monitor for any changes. So that's pretty nice to see. And then she looks over to Kuma and just says, "The child's life is a very fragile thing," and she crushes a rock. Looking at Kuma, making sure that he gets the memo not to come back or do anything stupid. And he tells her, "Understand, I'm not coming back." And he just looks at Bonnie and says, "Thank you. I'm glad that you were born, Bonnie." And then he takes off. He tells them that, being a pirate, he still can't be around the kingdom yet. So I can't be here. I have to leave. But I entrust you guys to be doing the right thing. And I'll see you when I see you. And the fact that Kuma is now a member of the world government and he's a lapdog for them. It goes across the world, and you see all the warlords that's currently there getting the breaking news. We start off with Sugar showing Doflamingo, and then Doflamingo just looking on like, a tyrant. Sounds like we got another villain to play with. We see Miss All Sunday, aka Robin, telling Crocodile, and Crocodile not caring. He's only caring about the rain making ship, and just making sure that he continues to do what he has to do. We see Me Hulk, just getting the news, reading the paper, of course, looking on at it. Even Alvita sees it and tries to ask Kobe who's stronger. And Kobe, this is back when he was a chore boy for Alvita's ship, is just looking on and saying, you, of course, Miss Alvita. Like, he's still like a little prick, that's a little scared little punk that's just there. And then we jump over to Whitebeard's ship, where we have Whitebeard, Teach, Marco, Jinbei, and of course, Fire Fist Ace. And Ace says, so they finally found a replacement. That's great news, Jinbei. Because we all know that Jinbei stepped down from his warlord status. And this is where Kuma comes into play to step into that role. And because Jinbei wanted to join, forces with Whitebeard, of course, and they always look on. Markle and Whitebeard just looks at him and says, "Kind of funny, the circumstances, considering that it was supposed to be you who took over the Rams, Ace. That you're talking like this." But Jinbei's looking on still like a former king, huh? So you went from being a king to this in the pirate world, and he thinks times are really changing. And then, of course, we get to see Boa Hancock, um, that doesn't care about it at all because he's just another man and she doesn't care about any man and follow any man's orders. Then we jump over and we see Perona talking to Moria, and Moria just simply saying that, oh, he's a pom pom man. It doesn't sound frightening at all, and this is kind of funny because we got to see Kuma come to Moria's island at Thriller Bark and kind of like go straight berserk destruction on that island. Didn't really do it too much damage with it, but after it was all over with, he made sure that he left his mark with nothing happening. The famous scene that we all seen, and of course, it wouldn't be right if we didn't see the Revolutionary Army's head commander, Dragon, with nothing to say, looking on at this paper. But we do see Hack, Koala, and Sabo looking on as well. And I'm kind of glad that we got to see Ace and Sabo both at this age that they're at. And they're different fields. Sabo not remembering Ace, but Ace thinking that Sabo is dead. Just seeing them as they react to the same exact news of just how is Kuma, like Sabo's words is, the warlords answered directly to the government, and Kuma would never work for them. Koala's thinking this, and Sabo's thinking this as well. But that just goes to show you that they don't know what's really going on, and they have to figure it out later on down the line. Once they get a little bit older and get a little bit more freedom to actually go through and see what the hell made Kuma turn his back on the Revolutionary Army and become a lapdog of the world government. And then, of course, we get the final scenes coming aboard where we see Kuma's ship just going through some type of sea. It's just traveling out, and he has a message for Bonney. It says, "Dear Bonney, I'm still at sea as I write this. I've become quite known, and it's getting harder and harder to sail in peace. But I'm doing okay. I'm doing my best to find interesting travel destinations for when you turn 10. I hope everyone is doing well back home." And he sends this off with the bird. As the bird goes off, we see that we get Monkey D. Luffy as a kid playing around with the tiger. And we have a call that comes in that says, "Bartholomew Kuma, come in. You have new commands from the government." where is your current location? And he simply states, looking on in the distance, we see Windmill Village, that he's in the East Blue. And what are his orders? And we end it right there on this chapter to see that he's either going to come in contact with Luffy right now at this age, or Shanks is going to cut him off as being, the Emperor of the Sea. Actually, yeah, Shanks was already Emperor of the Sea because during this time. So to see that Shanks is gonna cut him off most likely and stop him from doing whatever the hell has to be done is gonna be interesting to find out. But I do like this chapter a hell of a lot because we got to see so many characters, um, and it's wrapping up the end to a beautifully written backstory for Kuma and Bonney, that syncs it all back up. There, the fact that we got to see Khalifa inside there, all the other Seven Warlords' reactions towards Kuma becoming a Seven Warlord member, um, Bonnie Chan's raising. But the number one thing that stuck out to me in this chapter was the fact that Oda did drop another wink wink moment. And that is the fact that Kuma, being a Buccaneer member, was dancing around with Vegapunk, Bonney, Sentomaru, and I believe that was Kizaru, as they were all eating and partying together. Are we getting more confirmation or closer to being awakened? The answer to what the original Joy Boy was. Was he really a Buccaneer member? This is going to be interesting to see as we go through some more of the chapters. I can't wait for next week. It's not a break, so we do get next week's chapter to come out. So I want to see if they're going to continue, the pathway of where we're currently at, or are we going to see more to come? Because Kuma is currently in the East Blue, and he's heading towards the village where Luffy grew up at. So this is going to be really interesting. I'm super excited to see the outcome of this. I'm still a little bit sick, but I will do my best to make sure that you guys get nothing but the best from me whenever I can guarantee you guys a drop. Please make sure you guys hit that like button, the subscribe button. Shout out to Kev again. Big Kev, you came out, did your thing, and won the prize. Big shout outs to that. Glad to have you on board, rocking with the 1216 Grand Fleet. Leave some comments down below. As you can see, we do interact with them. If we can interact with them, we will do our best to interact with them all. Share the video with your homies. Let them know that the 1216 podcast means business and we're in full effect. And this is 12 signing off.